Hello and welcome to this first look exploring session, our final session looking at the Bloody Banquet by Thomas Dekker and Thomas Middleton. Middleton's ascription to this this is a late edition, but generally I think accepted as reasonable. But we are halfway through the play. The dramaturgy of the first half is not the tidiest, but there are lots of very playable scenes, so and some interesting character stuff, and occasionally rather nice lines. So we shall see what the second half, where we find out if we're going to get a bloody banquet and how that will function. So reading today, the part of the young queen and Fidelio is...
Oh, I'm sorry. That's me. My name's Lynn. I live in the northwestern United States. It's really early in the morning here. That's my excuse.
Reading third servant and Armatrites is...
Hi, I'm Stephen MacNeice. I'm an actor. I'm based in London.
Reading Tymethes and Amorpho is...
Hello, my name is Connor, and I am based in London also.
And just coming in, we'll use this as an opportunity to test your sound. Reading Second Serpent, Lapyrus, Old Queen, and Lady is...
Hi, my name is Alexandra, and I just put in the chat, anyone have a clue who I am?
Yes, I'll remind you as we go. Reading Fourth Servant and Mazeres is...
Helen Good in Yorkshire, and I'm going to say for the last time.
Reading Valesta, Lodovicus, and Sextorio is...
Sarah Blake, and I do like an evil laugh.
Reading Zenarchus and King is...
I'm confused already.
Reading Amphridote is...
Me, Aliki Chapel. Hi.
And reading Roxano is...
Steve Longstaffe.
And it's going one of those days. And I'm your host, Robert Crighton. I will be reading stage directions and generally keeping this thing moving forward. We've got quite a lot of text to get through in this session. So without further ado, we're going to dive into Act 3, Scene 2. Scene 2 of Act 3. We've had a scene with Roxano blindfolding Tymethes, who thinks he's going forwards for some sexy times, but Mazeres has already just been bribed to move him in the general direction of death. But we will find out how those plots go as we go into Act 3, Scene 2, and we enter the young queen with 4 servants. One's called Valesta, the others I don't think we have a name for. She with a book in her hand.
The book in my hand. Oh, my fair frighted blood. Are you all here?
All at your pleasure, madam.
That's my wish, and my opinion hath ever been persuaded of your truths, and I have found you willing to all employments we put into your charge.
Second servant, Alexandra. Sorry, I
our
said I'd
faiths,
remind you.
In our faiths, madam.
Or we are bound in duty to your bounty.
Will you to what I shall prescribe and swear secrecy?
Try us, sweet lady, and you shall prove our faiths.
To all things that you hear or see, I swear you all to secrecy. I pour my life into your breasts. There my doom or safety rests. If you prove untrue to all, now I rather choose to fall with loss of my desire than lighted to the tyrant's wrathful spite. But in vain I doubt your trust. I never found your hearts but just. On this book your vows arrive, and as in truth in favor thrive.
They lay their hands on the book, swearing upon it in some fashion, thusly.
We wish no higher.
We wish no higher, so we swear.
So we swear.
Like jewels all your vows I'll wear. Here, take this paper. There those secrets dwell. Go read your charge, which I shall blush to tell. All's sure, I doubt nothing of safety now, to which each servant hath combined his vow. Roxano, that begins it trustily. I cannot choose but praise him. He's so needful. There's nothing can be done about a lady, but he is for it. Honest Roxano, even from our head to feet, he's so officious. With time draws on, I feel the minutes here, the clock so true as love that strikes in fear.
And they exit. We're going straight into Act 3. Honest Roxano are the ironies there. Soft music. A table with lights set out. Arras spread. Enter Roxano, leading Tymethes, still hooded. Mazeres meets them.
How far lack I yet of my blind pilgrimage?
Whist! Roxano!
You are at your inn, my lord. Away, I'll help you to a disguise.
Enough.
Exit Mazeres.
Methinks I walk in a vault all underground.
And now your long-lost eyes again are found. A good morrow, sir.
By the mass, the day breaks.
Rest here, my lord. You shall find content. Catch your desires. Stay here. They shall be sent.
Though it be night, 'tis morning in that night which brought me hither. Ha! The ground spread Arras. What place is this? Rich hangings? Fair room gloriously furnished? Lights and their lustre? Riches and their splendour? 'Tis no mean creature. These dumb token witnesses, troth, I did in effect my hostess better. I love her in absence, though unknown for courtly, from then there's observed and shown.
And having had his hood taken off, he's enjoying looking around. There is music, loud music. Enter two of the servants with a banquet, two with lights, and they set them down and depart, making observance, or obeisance rather. Roxano takes one of them aside.
Valesta, yes, the same. 'Tis my lady's pleasure you give to me your coat, and visited attend without till she employ you.
And exit Valesta.
So, now this disguise serves for my Lord Mazeres, where he watches for fit occasion. Lecture, now beware. Securely sit, fearlessly quaff and eat. You'll find sour sauce still after your sweet meat.
And exit Roxano.
The servants all in visance. By this light, I do admire the carriage of her love. For I count that woman above wife can sin and hide the shame from man's eyes. They never do their easy sex more wrong than when they venture from fame upon man's tongue. Yet I could swear concealment in love's plot, but happy woman that believes me not. Whatever is spoke to be spoke seems fit, and still concludes her happiness and wit.
More loud music. Enter Roxano. Mazeres, visored and disguised variously, and the other servants with dishes of sweetmeats. Roxano places them, each having delivered his dish, makes low obeisance to Tymethes and exit servants.
This banquet from her own hand received grace, have herself prepared it for you, as appears by the choice sweets it yields, able to move a man past sense to the delights of love. I bid you welcome as her most prized guest, first to this banquet, next to pleasure's feast.
Whoe'er she be, we thank her, and commend her care and love to entertain a friend.
Oh, that speaks her sex's rareness, for to women the darkest path love treads is clear and common. She wishes your content may be as great as if her presence filled that other seat.
Convey my thanks to her, and fill some wine.
My lord.
My Lord Mazeres caught the office. I cannot but laugh to see how well he plays the devil in a visit. Damns where he crouches. Little thinks the prince under that face lurks, his life's enemy. Yet he but keeps the fashion. Great men kill as flatterers stab, who laugh when they mean ill.
Now could I poison him fitly, aptly, rarely.
And we have an inferred stage direction, which is probably wrong in this script, for the entrance of the lady with wine. There's another cup of wine coming on in a moment. This is the point Mazeres poisons the wine.
My vengeance speaks me happy. There it goes.
Some wine.
It comes, my lord.
My lady begun to you, sir, and doth commend this to your heart, and with it her affection.
I'll pledge her thankfully.
And spills the wine.
There, remove that.
And in this my revenge must be removed, where first I left it. Now my abused wrath pursues thy ruin in this dangerous path.
Oh, I've quite dashed, my lord Mazeres.
Return my faith, my reverence, my respect, and tell her this, which courteously I find she hides her face, but lets me see her mind.
And exit lady.
I would not taste of such a banquet to feel that which follows it, the love of an empress. It's more dangerous to be a lecher than to enter upon a breach. Yet how securely he munches. His thoughts are sweeter than the very meats before him. He little dreams of his destruction, his horrible, fearful ruin, which cannot be withstood. The end of venery is disease or blood.
Soft music. Enter the young queen, masked in her nightgown, her maid with a shirt and a nightcap. The maid gives Roxano the shirt and nightcap, and the young queen and maid exit.
I have not known one happier for his pleasure than in that state we are. 'Tis a strange trick, and sweetly carried by this light, a delicate creature, and should have a good face if all hit right. For they that have good bodies and bad faces were all mismatched and made up in blind places.
The wind and tide serve you, serve, sir. You have lighted upon a sea of pleasure. Here's your sail, sir, and your top streamer, fair wrought shirt, and a nightcap.
I shall make a sweet voyage of this.
Aye, if you knew all, sir.
It's not all known yet. What's to be told?
500 crowns in the shirt sleeve of gold.
How?
'Tis my good lady's pleasure. No clouds eclipse her bounty. She shines clear. Some like that pleasure best that costs most dear. Yet I think your lordship is not of that mind now. You like that best that brings a banquet with it, and 500 crowns.
Aye, by this light do I, and think thou art of my mind.
We jump somewhat near, sir.
But what does she mean to reward me aforehand? I may prove a eunuch now for aught she knows.
Oh, sir, I never knew any of your hair, but he was absolute at the game.
Faith, we are much of a colour. But here's a note. What says it?
And he reads.
Our love and bounty shall increase so long as you regard our peace, unless your life you would forego, who we seek not to know. Enjoy me freely, for your sake this dangerous shift I undertake, but therefore wise keep safe your breath, you cannot see me under death. I'd be loath to venture so far for the sight of any creature under heaven.
Yes, sir, I think you may see 1,000 faces better.
Well, I will shift me instantly, and be content with my groping fortune.
Enter Tymethes.
Oh, sir, you grope to purpose.
Exit Roxano.
I'll after thee, and see the measure of my vengeance unheaped. His ruin is my charge. I have seen that this night would make one blush through this vizard. Like lightning in a tempest her lust shows, or drinking drunk in thunder, horrible. For on this act 1,000 dangers wait. The king will seize him in his burning fury and seal his vengeance on his reeking breast. Though I make pander's use of ear and eye, no office vile to damn mine enemy. This course is but the first. 'Twill not rest there. The next shall change him into fire and air.
Exit Mazeres, and we pause for the interval break of between acts, which we can infer is very probable here. So a long little sequence with those two scenes, but I thought I'd let them run into each other. We have the swearing of duty to the young queen, so that she can have constancy from all her servants, which is unfortunately didn't bring Roxano into that pledge, but never mind, he's honest, so it's fine. And then Tymethes brought into a poison plot that doesn't come off, and you just get the impression that Mazeres is sort of standing there just going, "Drat's foiled again," at the end there, and sort of going, "Just stab him. Just stab it. He's there in a place. Just stab him. You're in disguise." It seems weirdly odd. They've just organised a massive military campaign, and sure he's got blood on his hands. I find this whole situation very odd. Am I missing something here? Answers on a postcard. Thoughts in the room. It's a little hard to jump into this scene because, of course, it follows on directly from the scene from last session. So if you feel a bit discombobulated, there is that reason as well. Lynn, then Aliki.
Well, yeah, Mazeres is a little weird. Maybe he just hates Tymethes so much he just wants to kill him himself. I don't know, because Tymethes has basically stepped in it himself. He's having an encounter with the queen. All you have to do is tell the king, "Go check on your wife," and it's all over for Tymethes. He's dead. You can get him out of your way, have him publicly humiliated. You couldn't ask for more. So why Mazeres is determined to actually murder him, I don't understand, because Tymethes is basically could be hoist on his own petard quite easily. The other thing that's very interesting about this sequence is that much of this is really plot-wise unnecessary. It's a lot of sort of mood building. I don't know that we necessarily need to have the swearing of the servants. Maybe that will be significant later. But we bring in sweetmeats and a nightshirt and a nightcap. It's just like you have to have a hat on to have sex in this period. Well, I don't understand.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yes. Do not question.
Interesting little material culture detail there. So, yeah, this is interesting because it's really kind of more about the mood than it is about moving the plot forward.
I'm really interested. I really like the Queen little swearing in session. I misread one of the lines, so that was at one point something to do with breasts being safety rests. It was it didn't land particularly well. But yeah, I mean, it depends on what kind of gown and nightcap she's sending round. I imagine a modern production could come up with all sorts of interesting alternative clothing options for him. Aliki.
Yeah, I was thinking about that poisoning bit as well, and what Lynn said about this all being atmosphere also plays into this.
Atmosphere is a good word.
I was trying to work out where the audience's pleasure is in this. And I wonder if it might be a sort of, he's going to be poisoned. He's going to be poisoned. Oh, he's not poisoned. A kind of, we were talking about spectacle yesterday, and the tease is part of spectacle. We're going to show you a gory death. Just kidding. So maybe that's part of what's going on. And also with the banquet, the whole kind of a procession of servants bringing elaborate looking dishes, perhaps. I don't know.
Yeah, and it just maybe because Mazeres is also sort of being mocked here, but by Roxano, because he's making him pretend to be a servant, and he's got to be caught and step forward, and maybe there's just something just weird about the atmosphere that sort of stops Mazeres from doing anything there. Stephen,
is it because he's wearing a female servant's get-up? I mean, I know it's only a coat, but. It's
no, I think it's a male servant, isn't it?
Is it? Oh, okay.
It isn't clear from the text as to what but I think that's a good idea. I think there's something about that that fits within the psychology of what's going on with Mazeres there.
It'd be kind of like you've got business with the coat, perhaps. It's just that sort of the disguise element just makes the obvious move less obvious, apart from the fact that it's just, don't need an excuse. We've got another, 800 lines we need to fill. But I just wondered if it was, it's just sort of theatrically and visually that it was kind of blocking it in some way.
Yeah, it's an interesting act because it is very contained. It's very self-contained. Roxano, Mazeres, Tymethes, the young queen, and some servants. There's almost nobody else in this scene, this whole act. And if we think of acts as being slightly independent units of each other, it's really interesting how self-contained this is. There are no dumb shows with people in forests. There is none of the exterior court plot. This is all very focused on a very core element of the plot. It's kept really quite tight. So there's something interesting there as well. I think there might be a few other people pop in and out, but that's your core. Okay, that's it for Act 3. Shall we dive into Act 4? I see nobody else waving at me. You can if you wish. Act 4, Scene 1. And as I say, this is one of those things where, it's just about turnaroundable. It's fine. Tymethes left a little while ago. A whole speech occurred, so you can have him come straight back on again if you need to. Act 4, Scene 1. Enter Tymethes and Zenarchus.
Nay, did ever subtlety match it?
To a lady hoodwinked, placed in state, and banqueted in vizards.
All by this light. But all this nothing was to this delicious pleasure of her bed.
Who should this be?
Nay, inquire not, brother. I give one eye to her with the other. Seest thou this jewel? In the midst of night I sipped it from her veil, unfelt of her. Who may be so kind unto me as to bring her beauty to my knowledge.
Canst not guess at her, nor at the place?
At neither of my heart. Why, I tell thee, man, 'twas handled with such art and such admired cunning, with my blindness and their general darkness, that when mine eyes received her liberty, I was never so near. To them in full form I appeared unshrouded, but all their lights to me were masked and clouded.
Enter the tyrant, Armatrites and Mazeres observing.
Oh, heaven, I do admire the cunning of't.
Nay, you cannot outvie my admiration. I had a feeling of beyond your passion.
Enter Amphridote.
Well, blow this over. See, our sister comes.
Art sure, Mazeres, that he courts our daughter?
I am sure of more, my lord. She favours him.
That beggar?
Worse, my lord, that villain traitor. And yet worse, my lord.
How?
Oh, pardon, my lord. A riper time shall bring him forth. Behold him there, my lord.
Dares she so far forget respect to us, and dim her own lustre to give him grace?
Favours are grown to custom twixt them both. Letters, close banquets, whisperings, private meetings.
I'll make them dangerous meetings.
In faith, my lord, I'll have this jewel.
'Tis not my gift, my lady.
What's that, Mazeres?
Marry, my lord, she courtly begs a jewel of him, which he keeps back as courtly with fair words.
I have sworn, my lord.
Why, upon that condition you'll keep it safe and closed from all strange eyes. Not wronging me, 'tis yours.
I swear.
It shall suffice.
And he gives her the jewel, and they kiss again. I forgot to mention that they kissed earlier. Exit Zenarchus and Amphridote to whatever.
'Tis hers, my lord, at which they part in kisses.
I'll make those meetings bitter. Both shall rue. We have found Mazeres to this minute true.
And exit with Mazeres.
No trick to see this lady. Part of ill fortune. The jewel that was begged from me too was the hope I had to gain her, and wished for knowledge. Well, here's a heart within we will not be quiet. The eye is a sweet feeder of the soul when the taste wants. That keeps the memory whole. 'Tis bad to be in darkness, all know well, that not to see that doth it want of hell. What says the note? Unless your life you would forego, who we are seek to know. Psh, all idle. As if she suffered death to threaten me, whom she so bounteously and firmly loves. No trick? Excellent. 'Twill fit. Make use of that.
Enter Mazeres and Roxano.
Enough, thou'rt honest. I affect thee much. Go, train him to his ruin.
Let me alone, my lord. Doubt not I'll train him. Perhaps, sir, I have the art.
And exit Mazeres.
Oh, I know thy mind.
The further lodge?
Enough. I'll meet thee presently.
Why so? I like one that will make an end of himself at few words. A man that hath a quick perseverance in ill, a leaping spirit. He'll run through horror's jaws to catch sin. To overtake virtue, he softly paces, like a man that scents some tedious, dark, unprofitable journey. Corrupt is nature. She loves nothing more than what she most should hate. As nothing springs apace in man, but grey hairs, cares, and sins.
And exit Roxano.
I'll see her, come what can, but what can prove? She cannot seek my death that seeks my love.
And exit. So Tymethes is continuing his general working his way around the court, and you can see basically the traps that he set out for himself. He's taken a jewel from the queen. The king has sort of overlooked this. The tyrant's sort of gone, hang on, what's he got there? And it's sort of just going, you know, is he already in the back of his mind going, hang on, didn't I give her that last Christmas? You know, is that already ticking away there? And I mean, there's a good reason why Mazeres doesn't pass on what's going on. Of course, you don't necessarily want to humiliate your patron by making this public, and certainly not letting him know that you know. But he's definitely working various elements, and yeah, it's sort of, there's an element of, if there was an act break between 3 and 4, that there's almost a just reminding everyone where we are with the plot. If they just a couple of minutes have passed with some music, you need to sort of just click back into where we are with everything, and it's all very courtly intrigue in reality. Any thoughts, Lynn? And then
we were
Helen.
talking last time about no good people at the court. In any case, like no good people. Tymethes just goes to his buddy and said, like, even though he's basically betrothed to Zenarchus's sister, he even calls Zenarchus brother, or vice versa. Like, oh yeah, I got some last night. Don't know who she was, but it was great. Like, ew.
Yeah. The Helen.
Yeah, I love the way the villain keeps popping in and off the stage. I mean, he's never still. He comes in, says a couple of lines, pushes off again. I've never read anyone who's quite so busy. Normally, when one is on, and then eventually one goes off. But not this guy.
When he was on, and when he was off, he was off.
But when he was in the Bloody Banquet, he was neither on nor off.
Yes. So let us gather a bit more evidence from Act 4. We've cleared the throat. With the pieces definitely in play. Let's see where this is going to go. Act 4, Scene 2. Enter Amphridote and Mazeres.
My lord, what is the matter?
I know not what. The king sent.
Well, we obey.
Enter the tyrant Armatrites.
Here comes his highness.
Now, what's she?
My lord? Your highness knew me once, your most obedient daughter.
They lie that tell me so. This is not she.
No, my lord?
No, for as thou art, I know thee not, and I shall strive still to forget thee more. Thou neither bear'st in memory my respects, nor thy own worths. How can we think of thee but as of a dejected, worthless creature, so far beneath our grace and thy own lustre that we disdain to know thee? Was there no choice among our selected nobles to make thy favourite besides Tymethes, son to our enemy, a wretch, a beggar, dead to all fortunes, honours, or their hopes? Besides, his breath worth nothing, abject wretch. To place thy affection so vigorously on him can ne'er requite it. Deny it not. We know the favours thou hast given him, pledges of love, close letters, private meetings, and whisperings are customary twixt you. Come, which be his gifts? Whereabout lie his pledges?
Your grace hath been injuriously informed. I never received pledge.
Impudent creature! When in our sight and hearing, shamefully undervaluing thy best honours, and setting by all modesty of blood, thou begg'st a jewel of him.
Oh, pardon me, my lord, I had forgot. Here 'tis. That is the same, and ne'er was his.
Ha! This? How came this hither?
I gave it you, my lord.
Who gave it thee?
Tymethes.
He? Who gave it him?
I know not that, my lord.
And here it sticks, Mazeres.
My lord?
'Tis my queen's, Mazeres. How to him came this?
I can resolve, your highness.
Can Mazeres?
Here's some ape. The husk falls from him now, and you shall know his inside. He is a villain, a traitor to the pleasures of your bed.
Oh, I shall burst with torment.
He's received this night into her bosom.
I feel a whirlwind in me, ready to tear the frame of my mortality.
I traced him to the deed.
And saw it done?
I abused my eyes in the true survey oft, tainted my hearing with the lascivious sounds. My loyalty did prompt me to be sure of what I found, so wicked and impure.
'Tis springtide in my gall, all my blood's bitter, lungs too.
This night.
Lodovicus!
Enter Lodovicus.
My lord.
How camest thou up? Let's hear.
My lord, my first beginning was a broker.
A knave from the beginning. There's no hope of him. Sextorio!
Enter Sextorio, who will sound remarkably similar.
Here, my lord.
We know thee, just. How camest thou up? Let's hear.
From no desert that I can challenge, but your highness' favour.
Thou art honest in that answer. Go, report we are 40 leagues off. Ride forth, spread it about the castle cunningly.
I'll do it faithfully, my lord.
Do it cunningly. Go. If thou shouldst do faithfully, thou liest.
Exit Sextorio.
I'm lost by violence through all my senses. I'm blind with rage, Mazeres. Guide me forth. I tread in air and see no foot nor path. I have lost myself, yet cannot lose my wrath.
Exeunt all but Amphridote.
What have I heard? Dares not be but true. Tymethes, taken in adulterate trains, with the queen my mother. Now I hate him, as beauty abhors years, or usurers charity. He does appear unto my eye a leper, full of sin's black infection, foul adultery.
And enter Mazeres.
First be the hour in which I first did grace him. Let Mazeres starve in my disdain, that hath so long observed me with true love, whose loyalty in this approves the same.
Madam.
My love? My lord, I should say, but I say my love.
I do beseech your grace for what I have done. Lay no oppressing censure on me. I could not but in honesty reveal it. Not envying in that he was my rival, nor in the force of any ancient grudge, but as the deed in its own nature craved. So among the rest it was revealed to me, appearing so detested, that yourself, gracious and kind, had you but seen the manner, would have thrown by all pity and remorse, and took my office, or one more in force.
Rise, dear Mazeres, in our favours. Rise, so far am I from censure to reprove thee, that in my hate to him, I choose and love thee.
If constant service may be called desert, I shall deserve.
Man hath no better part.
Why? This was happily observed and followed. The king will to the castle late tonight and tread through all the vaults. I must attend.
I wish that at first sight thou hadst forced his end.
And exit Amphridote.
'Tis better thus. So my revenge imports. Now thrive my plots, and end shall make me great. She's mine. The crown sits here. I am then complete.
And exit Mazeres. Muhahaha. As Helen said, that was the last you were going to do earlier. I thought I'd throw one in for you. So
Thank
it
you.
all comes pouring out. So that first scene of the act is actually very important setup for what immediately follows. And Mazeres can twist the knife of what the tyrant has discovered of his own bat and get other things for himself. So there's a very clear sort of move now of the plot in this direction. As everything's sort of unraveling, and people have lots of motivation now for maybe some kind of blood-based food incident. I don't know what could possibly, we really needed some sort of spark, and I think we've started to get all these pieces in place here. I mean, I don't know why I think this might happen. I don't know. Thoughts from the room on the flow of the action in Act 4. Everyone's very silent. Don't have thoughts.
Waiting for the denouement.
Yeah, I mean, it's starting to really sort of bubble away quite nicely here, isn't it? There's some nice sort of backs and forths and turnarounds, and it's interesting. Mazeres has sort of gone from this figure who's a bit aloof and a bit standing and asking other people to do things, and now he's starting to do sort of cunning whispering and this is what's going on. He's twisting things very nicely.
Yeah, and he wants to marry the king's daughter, and he is intending to be king himself.
Yeah,
this is a new a new fiendish plot.
I think he's always been keen on Amphridote. It's just, but yeah, that he's going to use that to leapfrog the crown.
She's a means to an end.
But he's finally getting something that he kind of wants. It's now moving in a position where he's gonna, all these pent up desires. I'm sort of seeing.
It's
that.
Nice to have a villain with a motive.
Yeah.
I mean, so often villains have rather inadequate motivation.
Other thoughts? Okay, then let's go into Act 4. Oh, no, Lynn.
No, I was just going to comment on Mazeres' creepiness that he claims to have actually watched the Queen. But that's just gross. I mean, I don't know if he's really a voyeur or if he's just telling the kid, but that's just icky.
Yeah, and of course, it might not be true. I mean, Beyond, he might have just... I got the impression from the way he was lingering in the background, everything, he was sort of torturing himself by watching and in some sort of really twisted kind of way. But he could just be making that bit up. Just going, he just saw them go off and he's just going, I had to stay and watched for your sake, my lord. Yeah, right. Alan?
Yeah, I mean, I suspect that Mazeres' motivation throughout has actually been wanting to get the crown, and Amphridote is the means to an end rather than vice versa.
Oh, he's always but there has been interiority about his desires for her from the off. I mean, I think there is something. There's definitely he said that from the very beginning, whereas the going for the crown has not been articulated.
But I think it's been his motivation, even if he hasn't articulated it.
Yeah, it might be, but I say in the sense that we have had that has been established from the very beginning of the play, pretty much from the first scene. That he's keen on her on some level. He can do both. People are allowed to have more than one motivation for things. Okay, Act 4, Scene 3. Enter young Queen and her maid with a light.
So, leave us here a while. Bear back the light. I would not be discovered if he come. You know his entertainment, so be gone.
And exit maid.
I am not cheerful, troth. What point soe'er my powers arrive at, I desire a league with desolate darkness and disconsolate fancies. There is no music in my soul tonight. What should I fear when all my servants' faith sleep in my bounty, and no bribes nor threats can wake them from my safety? For the king, these 14 leagues rode forth. I heard it lately. Yet heaviness, like a tyrant proud in the night, usurps my power, rules where it hath no right.
And she sleeps. Once again, enter Roxano as she sleeps, with Tymethes hoodwinked.
Methinks this a longer voyage than the first.
Pleasure once tasted makes the next seem worse.
Is that the trick?
Well, sir, experience proves it. You came at first to enjoy what you ne'er knew. Now all is but the same, whate'er you do.
I'll prove that false. The sight of her is new.
I forgot a business to my lord Mazeres. My safety to the king relies upon it. You are in the house, my lord. This is the withdrawing room.
I see nothing.
Oh, no matter, sir, as long as you have feeling enough.
Is the hood off?
'Tis here in my hand, sir. I must crave pardon, leave you here a while, but as you love my safety and your own, remove not from this room till my return.
Well, here's my hand. I will not.
'Tis enough, sir.
And exit Roxano.
Art gone? Then boldly I step forth, cunning discoverer of an unknown beauty, as subtle as her plot. Thou art masked too. Show me a little comfort in this condensed darkness. Play the flatterer, laugh in my face.
And opens the dark lantern.
Why, here's enough to perfect all my wishes. With this I taste of that forbidden fruit, which, as she says, death follows death. 'Twill sting. Soft. What room's this? Let's see. 'Tis not the former I was entertained in. No, it somewhat differs. Rich hanging still, court deckings, ay and all.
And he sees the young queen.
Oh, all that can be in man's wish compromised is in thy love immortal, in thy grace. I am not the same flesh, my touch is altered.
She awakes.
Thou betrayed me. What hast thou attempted?
Nothing that can be prejudicial to the sweet peace of thus lustrous graces.
Oh, my most certain ruin!
Admired lady, hear me, hear my vow.
O miserable youth, none saves me now.
By that which man holds dearest, dreadful queen, and all that can be in vow constrained, I'll prove as true, secret and vigilant, as ever man observed with serious virtue the dreadful call of his deepening soul. Your own soul to your secret shall not prove not true than mine to it, to them, to all, to you.
O misery of affection built on breath! Were I as far past my belief in heaven as in man's oaths, I were the foulest devil.
May I eat and ne'er be nourished, live and know nothing, love without enjoying, if ever.
Come, this is more than needs.
There's comfort then.
That you profess such truth, I shall enjoin you to one poor penance, then to try your faith.
Be it what it will, command it.
Spend but this hour, wherein you have offended, in true repentance of your sin, and all your hasty use shall stand guilty of. And being clear, you shall enjoy that which you hold most dear.
And if this is penance, I perform not truly, may I henceforth never be received to favour.
Why then, I'll leave you to your tasks a while. Most wretched, doubtful, strange, distracted woman, ere drawn in pieces twixt love and fear, I weep in thought of both. Bold, venturous youth, twice I writ death, yet would he seek to know me. He'll make no conscience where his oath bestows me.
Exit young queen, leaving him kneeling in penance.
I'm glad all's so well past, and she appeared, and she appeased. I swear I did expect a harder penance when she began to enjoy me. Why, this is wholesome for soul and body, though I seldom use it. Her wisdom is as pleasing as her beauty. I never knew affection hastier born, with more true art and less suspicion. It so amazed me to know her my mistress. I had no power to close the light again. Unhappy that I was.
Enter the young queen with 2 pistols.
Peace, here she comes. Down to thy penance. Think of thy whole youth, from the first minute that the womb conceived me to this fall-heaped hour. I do repent me, with heart as penitent as man dissolving, of all my sins, born with me and born of me. Dishonest thoughts and sighs, the paths of youth, so thrive in mercy as end in truth.
And she shoots him dead.
Fly to thy wish. I pray it may be given. Man in a twinkling is in earth and heaven. I dealt not like a coward with thy soul, nor took it unprepared. I gave him time to put his armor on, and sent him forth like a celestial champion. I loved thee with more care and truer moan, since thou must die to taste more deaths than one. Too much of this pity and love confesses, had any warning fastened on thy senses. Rash, unadvised youth, whom my soul weeps for, how oft I told thee this attempt was death? It wouldst thou venture on, fond man, and knew, but what destruction wilt not youth pursue? Here long mightst thou have lived, been loved, enjoyed, had not thy will thy happiness destroyed. Thought'st thou by oaths to have thy deeds well borne? Thou shouldst have come when man was near forsworn. They are dangerous now. Witness this breach of thine, who's false to his own faith will ne'er keep mine. We must be safe, young man, the deed's unknown. There are more loves, honors, no, more than one. In spite of death, I'll kiss thee. Kisses him. Oh, strange ill, that our fears we should our comforts kill. Whom shall I trust with this poor bleeding body? Yonder's a secret vault runs to the castle. There for a while convey him, hapless boy that ne'er knew how dear 'twas to enjoy.
And we'll just pause there. So, just to ask, who here thought that it was going to be the young queen in the bedroom with the pistols? I mean, did anyone see that coming at all? I mean, I get the impression that we're all quietly delighted by this turn of events, because he's he's not a, on the grand scheme of a court full of murder and death, he's not the worst person in the universe, but he's not a great guy. And are we sad? No. And she told him not to come or he'd die. And, she wrote twice. So, yeah. Alan.
Yeah, I mean, there's presumably a missing stage direction somewhere of enter servants, because she's giving instructions to somebody to take his body away, but if you read the stage directions, they're the only two people in the room.
No, I think that's more a thought about what shall I do to remove the body. She's not calling for servants yet. She hasn't thought that far ahead, really. She's just going, oh, hang on, there's some vaults somewhere, aren't we? We can dump the body there. It will be fine.
Won't smell or anything.
Yeah, but yeah, it's a really nicely set up thing. It's that thing of because of course, she doesn't know Tymethes is coming. That's Roxano has planned this. She's just gone to bed, and he's brought him into the inner sanctum of the court. The king's in theory away. He opens the dark lantern, and suddenly, and this play is doing a lot with darkness effects. This is definitely an indoor playhouse, playing around with what you can do with light in an ideal world. I mean, on a quiet day when they can't be asked, maybe not. But it's doing that work, and then he's there, and it's this great idea. She gets him to pray. She gets him to pray before she kills him.
Yeah,
that's so he he goes to heaven, lucky boy. Isn't that nice? Aliki.
Which is a nice balance to the earlier scene where the old queen is being invited by, his name sounds something like Leper. I don't remember the name. The original traitor, yes. Lapyrus, to kill him. And he says, oh, kill me, I repent. And she says, if I kill him now in his repentance, he'll go straight to heaven. And this is great.
And here, and I say, it's not one, it's, it's both barrels as well, one suspects. It's not, there's not one pistol, bang, it's bam, bam, one in the chest, one in the head. Sorry.
They're an unreliable technology at this point, so two is probably smart.
Yeah. Well, but it's short range. You've got a reason, so long as you've loaded them properly. Anyway, Helen.
Yeah. Did I understand the deal correctly? She said, if you repent and do penance, then we could do it again.
Oh, yes. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, he doesn't know he's going to heaven.
He's not bright, is he?
No.
No.
I mean, he didn't spot the logical fallacy.
Well,
he's supposed to repent betraying her, not repent sleeping with her.
Yes, because he said he wouldn't come. He said he would never
I
visit
see.
her. Stephen, then Aliki.
I think Aliki was first.
Oh, I'll go to Stephen anyway, then go to Aliki, because Aliki's the
I was just thinking of the whole sort of, he's probably on his knees, and it'd just be a brilliant theatrical moment, wouldn't it? You could really make a pig of yourself with those pistols, couldn't you? Person playing the queen, it's just so nice to have something that's that isn't verbal at all, coming. Do you know what I mean? In such a play, it's just such a great theatrical moment.
And there's a sense that he goes down to kneel when she says kneel, and she goes, and that he must get back up again, when he does his monologue to the audience, and then he said, "Oh, here she comes, down to thy penance." So it gets you the impression, he hasn't really been sat there praying the whole time. He's actually just gone, "Hey, hey, hey," and then, "Oh, she's back. I'll just quickly pray." And she gets this wonderful speech just going through it all, and of course she is sad to lose him. They had some good times if he'd stuck to the deal. But she's the queen. She's the wife of a tyrant.
Says so. Right in the stage directions.
Yeah. And now she's got to get rid of the corpse somehow. And that's always the problem with murder. How do you get rid of the corpse? Busy court, difficult times. But it's all right. Luckily, the king's away. Oh no! Because we stop mid-scene, enter tyrant Armatrites with a torch.
Oh, I'm confounded everlastingly. Damned to 1,000 torches in the sight. What shall I frame? My lord!
She runs to him.
What's she?
My sweet, dearest lord.
Thy name?
Poor affrighted and endangered queen.
Oh, I know thee now.
Did not your majesty hear the piteous shrieks of an enforced lady?
Yes. Whose were they?
Mine! My most worthy lord, behold this villain, sealed with his just desert. Light here, my king, this violent youth, whom till this night I saw not, being as it seems acquainted with the footsteps of that dark passage, broke through the vault upon me, and with a secret lantern searched me out, and seized me at my orisons alone, bringing me by violence to this room, far from my guard or any hope of rescue, intending here the ruin of my honor. But in this strife, as the good gods ordained it, reaching for succor, I lighted on a pistol, which I presumed was not without his charge. Then I redeemed mine honor from his lust, so that he sought my fall. So he that sought my fall lies in the dust.
Oh, let me embrace thee for a brave, unmatchable, precious, unvalued, admirable whore.
Yes, my lord.
Come hither, yet draw nearer. How came this man to his end? I would hear that. I would learn cunning. Tell me that I may wonder and so love thee. There is no art like this. Let me partake, a subtlety no devil can imitate. Speak. Why is all so contrary to time? He down and you up? Ha, why thus?
I am sorry for my lord. I understand him not.
The deed is not so monstrous in itself, as is the art which ponders home the deed. The cunning doth amaze me past the sin, that he should fall before my rage begin.
My lord?
Come hither yet. One of those left hands give me. Thou hast no right at all. I will do naught, nothing but put a ring upon a finger.
That's the wrong finger for a ring, my lord.
And what was he on whom you bounteously bestowed this jewel?
I do not like that word.
Look well upon't. Dost know it? Aye, and start.
Came this hither? Your highness gave me this. This is my own.
'Tis the same ring, and yet not the same stone. Mystical strumpet, dost thou yet presume upon my subtle strength? Shakest thou not yet? Or is't only art makes women constant? Whom nature makes so loose? I looked for gracious lightning from thy cheeks. I see none yet, for a relenting eye. I see no such sight. Lust keeps in all. My witness? Where's my witness? Rise in the same form.
Enter from below Mazeres, habited like Roxano.
I am betrayed.
Is not yon woman an adulteress?
Yes, my good lord.
Was not this fellow catched for her desire, brought in a mist, banqueted and received to all her amplest pleasures?
True, my lord. I brought him, saw him feasted, and received.
Down, down, we have too much.
Oh, 'tis Roxano.
So, by this sleight I have deceived them both. I'm took for him, I strive to make her loath.
And exit Mazeres.
Needs here more witnesses? I'll call up more.
Oh no, here lies a witness against myself, sooner believe than all their hired faith. Doom me unto death, only accept the lingering execution of your look. Let me not live tormented in that brow, I do confess.
Oh, I felt no quick till now. All witnesses to this were but dead flesh. I was insensible of all but this. Would I had given my kingdom so conditioned that thou hadst ne'er confessed it. Now I stand by the deed, see all in action, the close conveyance, cunning passages, the artful fetch, the whispering, close disguising, the hour, the banquet, and the bawdy tapers, all stick in mine eye together, yet thou shalt live.
Let me not with life, it asks but death.
Oh, hadst thou not confessed? Hadst thou no slight? Where was thy cunning there? I see it now in thy confession. Thou shalt not die as long as this is meat. Thou killedst a buck, which thou thyself shalt eat.
Dear sir!
He is deer struck dead with thy own hand. 'Tis venison for thy own tooth. Thou know'st the relish. A dearer place hath been thy taster. Ho, Sextorio, Lodovicus!
And Sextorio and Lodovicus enter.
Here, sir.
Drag hence that body. See it quartered straight. No living wrath can I extend upon't, else torments, horrors, gibbets, racks, and wheels had with 1,000 deaths presented him ere he had tasted one.
Exit Sextorio and Lodovicus with the body.
Yet thou shalt live. Here, take this taper lighted, kneel and weep. I'll try which is spent first, that or thine eye.
The young queen kneels.
I'll provide food for thee. Thou shalt not die. If there be hell for sins that men commit, marry a strumpet and she keeps the pit.
Exit Armatrites.
I feared this misery long before it came. My ominous dreams and fearful dreadfulness promised the issue long before it was born.
Enter Mazeres.
Yonder she kneels, little suspecting me, the neat discoverer of her venery. I were full safe had I Roxano's life, which in this stream I fish for. How now, lady? So near the earth suits not a living queen.
Under the earth we're safer and far happier.
What is that can drive you to such discomforts, to prize your glories at so mean a rate?
The treachery of my servants, good my lord.
Dare they prove treacherous, most ignoble vassals, to the sweet peace of so divine a mistress?
I'm sure one villain whom I dearly loved, of whom my trust had made election chief, perfidiously betrayed me to the fury of my tempestuous, unappeased lord.
Ah, let me but know him, that I may bestow my service to your grace upon his heart, and thence deserve a mistress like yourself.
Enter Roxano from below.
Oh me, too soon behold him.
Madam, stand by. Let him not see the light.
Now I expect reward.
He dies were he my kinsman for that guilt, though 'twere as far to his heart as 'tis to the hilt.
Runs at Roxano.
What was that? There's a reward with a vengeance.
Fall, villain, for betraying of thy lady. Such things must never creep about the earth, to poison the right use of service. A treacher!
Kills Roxano.
This is some poor revenge. Thanks, good my lord. Into that cave with him from whence he rose not long since and betrayed me to the king.
Oh, villain! In and overtake thy soul.
And drops Roxano's body through the trapdoor.
Here's a perplexed breast. Let that warm steel perform but the like service upon me, and live the rarest friend to a king's wish.
Oh, pardon me. that were too full of evil. I threat not angels, though I smite the devil. Doubt not your peace, the king will be appeased. There I'll bestow my service.
We are pleased.
As much as comes to nothing, I'll not soothe to urge the king from that he urged him to.
Exit Mazeres.
Betrayed where I reposed most trust. O heaven, there is no misery fit match for mine.
Enter the tyrant Armatrites, Sextorio, Lodovicus, bringing in Tymethes' limbs.
So, bring them forward yet. There bestow them. Before her eyes lay the divided limbs of her desired paramour. So, ye are welcome. Lady, you see your cheer, fine flesh, coarse fare. Sweet was your lust. What can be bitter there? By heaven, no other food thy taste shall have, till in thy bowels those corpses find a grave. Which, to be sure of, come, I'll lock thee safe from the world's pity. Hang those quarters up, the bottom drinks the worst in pleasure's cup.
And they exit, and you get an interval, a brief interval, to have a little think about what's going on. Roxano's dead. And, okay, let's just talk about the logistics of this. So this is the Queen's bedchamber, and the Queen's bedchamber, like Tancred and Gismunda, there's a trapdoor in a secret passage in and out of her chamber. Or was she sleeping somewhere else? It's a useful thing to have an escape hatch, it's useful for getting rid of bodies and for entering and exiting via. But I'm just interested now about the design features of this particular castle court setup that we've got here. It's not the first, and I think we've got one in Sophonispa as well. We've got quite a few bedchambers with trapdoors. Anyway, Roxano's dead, and the body of Tymethes is being, I don't know, hung up, ready for, are they going to cure him first? I mean, thoughts from the room on this cheerful. I mean, it's going into the logistics of this bloody banquet in an interesting way. I wasn't expecting this. We might get some recipes next. Lynn.
Okay. I mean, like, all this shocking disgustingness aside, I mean, I'm sure we'll talk about that. But there's something weird here that I feel like you need to dramaturge out. When what's his name, who begins with an M?
Mazeres.
Mazeres pretends to be Roxana why? Why don't you just have Roxano come in and say, yeah, I was the pimp? I mean, or just or just leave that bit out. She's already confessed. No, she hasn't confessed. But I don't know, just leave that bit out, and the king doesn't believe her, that she doesn't know where the jewel came from. And then she just assumes Roxano. It just seems really unnecessary and really confusing.
And you don't want Roxano to have an opportunity to say more about what he knows. So it sort of makes sense. And so when he turns up, Mazeres is, oh, no. Don't want you here. Die. Helen.
Yeah, I mean, the point is that Mazeres has no certainty that Roxano is actually going to confess. He might deny the whole thing. So he has to disguise himself as Roxano in order that Roxano shall provide testimony against the young queen.
You can't trust Roxano. I mean, he is the person who knows for a fact that you cannot trust Roxano. And I say you can't guarantee what he's going to say in that moment. And also, just for the sake of having someone disguised as someone else, seems to be something the play just enjoys doing. There's other thoughts before we go into the final act, and for that matter, the final scene.
There's only one.
But yeah, they're upping the ante. Act 4 You know, I think nobody was dead before Act 4, apart from the baby. And
Who died of natural causes, more or less. So
you know, and obviously lots of people in war, but nobody had actually murdered anybody until Act 4, and then, you know, 2 people drop relatively quickly and terrible things happen. So yeah. So this is the anticipated Bloody Banquet, or is it? We shall see as we go into Act 5. Act 5, Scene 1. Enter Zenarchus Solus.
Oh, my Tymethes, truest joy on earth, hath thy fate proved so flinty, so perverse, for the sweet spring both of thy youth and hopes. This was Mazeres' spite, that cursed rival. I fail not. His own plot shall shower upon his bosom like a falling tower.
Enter the tyrant Armatrites.
My worthy lord.
Oh, you should have seen us sooner.
Why, my lord?
The quarters of your friend passed by in triumph, a sight that I presume had pleased you well.
I call a villain to my father's pleasure. No friend of mine, the sight had pleased me better. Had I, not like Mazeres, run my hate into the sin before it grew to act, and killed it ere it had knotted. 'Twas rare service, if your vexed majesty conceive it right, in politic Mazeres serving more in this discovery his own vicious malice than any true peace that should make you perfect. Suffering that equal treason to be done, he might have stopped in his confusion.
Most certain.
Good, your majesty. Bethink you, in manly temper and considerate blood, went he the way of loyalty, or your quiet, after he saw the courtesies exceed, to abuse your peace and trust them with the deed?
Oh, no, none but a traitor would have done it.
For, my lord, word indifferently.
I do.
What makes it heinous, burthensome, and monstrous, fills you with such distractions, breeds such furies in your incensed breast, but the deed doing?
Oh.
The intent had been sufficient but for his death, and that full satisfaction, but the act.
Insufferable. Sextorio. Where's Sextorio?
Enter Sextorio.
My lord.
Seek out Mazeres suddenly.
And exit him again.
Peace, Zenarchus. Let me alone to trap him.
It may prove, behold, my friend, how I express my love.
Oh, villain, had he pierced him at first sight, where I have one grief, I have missed 10,000 by it.
Enter Mazeres and Sextorio.
I dreamt of some new honours for my late service, and wondered how he could keep off so long from my desert.
Mazeres?
My loved lord.
I am forgetful. I am in thy debt some dignities, Mazeres. What shift shall we make for thee? Thy late service is warm still in our memory and dear favour. Prithee, discover to's the manner how thou tookest them subtly.
I was received into a waiter's room, my lord.
Thou wast?
And in a vizard helped to serve the banquet.
Huh?
Saw him conveyed into a chamber privately.
And still thou lett'st him run?
I let him play, my lord.
Huh?
I watched still near till her arms clasped him.
And there thou lett'st him rest?
Oh, there he was caught, my lord.
So art thou here. Drag him to execution. He shall die with tortures above the thought of tyranny.
Exeunt Armatrites, Sextorio, and Mazeres.
No words are able to express my gladness. 'Tis such a high-born rapture that the soul partakes it only.
Enter Amphridote and Lodovicus. Oh, muted at the...
My lord Mazeres, led unto his death?
It proves too true, dear princess.
Exit Lodovicus.
Cursed be the mouth that doomed him, and forever blasted the hand that parts him from his life. Was there none fit to practice tyranny on, but whom our heart elected? misery of love. I must not live to think on't.
Here's my sister. I could not bring that news will please her better. My news brings that command over your passions. You must be merry.
Have you warrant for't, brother?
Yes, strong enough, i' faith. Hear me, Mazeres, by this time, is at his everlasting home. Where'er his body lies, I struck the stroke. I wrought a bitter pill that quickly choked him.
Oh, me, my soul will out. Some wine there, ho!
Wine for our sister, for the news is worth it.
Enter Lodovicus with wine.
It will prove dear to both. So give it me. Now leave us.
And exit Lodovicus.
Revenge ne'er brought a more happy issue than I think mine to be.
And poisons the wine.
I'm setting forth, Mazeres. Here, Zenarchus.
Thou art not like this hour, jovial.
I shall be, after this.
That dost, if any. Wine doth both help defects and causeth many. Here's to the deed, faith, of our last revenge.
They drink.
Dying men prophesy. Faith, 'tis our last end. Now I must tell you, brother, that I hate you in that you have betrayed my loved Mazeres.
What's this?
His deed was loyal, his discovery just. He brought to light a monster and his lust.
Nay, if you grow so strumpet-like in your behaviour to me, I'll quickly call that insolence.
Peace, peace. There is a champion fights for me unseen. I need not fear thy threats.
Indeed, no harlot, but has her champion beside bawd and varlet. Oh!
Why, law you now, such gear will never thrive with me.
Sick of thy society, poison to mine eyes.
Oh, 'tis lower at thy breast the poison lies.
Ow.
'Tis for Mazeres.
Oh, you virtuous powers, so right strumpet, poison under love.
That man can ne'er be safe that divides love.
And she dies.
Nor can she be honest, can so soon impart. Oh, where that woman that can shift her heart.
And he dies as well. There isn't really a scene break here, but we're going to pause here. We have some interesting poisonings going on. Yes, it's really interesting, Amphridote's logic that is at play here. And again, it's scenes that you can play with and do things with. Yeah. Thoughts from the room on this? Everyone's very quiet today. People are dropping like flies. Come on. Helen and then Lynn.
I think Mazeres would have fought on his way out. I mean, I don't see him going silently and quietly to his death. But I'm absolutely delighted to find that somebody actually loved him. I'm surprised.
I don't think we can call what she did love.
Really?
Well, my other boyfriend was unfaithful to me. You made sure he got killed. I like you now.
Maybe it's a kind of love. Lynn.
Oh, yeah. I didn't follow Zenarchus's argument, so that might just be me because I'm kind of brain foggy and it's still early. But that's something that I think a director would need to be aware of. I mean, Zenarchus's argument is that Mazeres could have intervened and prevented the actual consummation of the affair at any time, and he chose not to, and that infuriates Armatrites. So yeah, I think that that's something that you need to be sure your audience is following. Why is Armatrites so angry? Because Zenarchus points out he let it happen. Like, he doesn't care about you. He let it happen, and he didn't have to.
Yeah. I mean, this is the thing: is Mazeres was sort of caught earlier when he explained what had happened. Because it all came back because here's a jewel. It's my wife, and he was sort of in a because I don't get the impression that there was ever a plan on his mind to tell the king this was going on, not directly, and certainly not to be in the room when it happened. Because that's a terrible game plan. You don't want to be involved. I mean, he was trying to poison the lad at the time, and that failed. And then he sort of says, well, I'll just let it happen. So this was sort of... I was expecting this to happen ages ago. I was expecting this to happen during the scene when he told him, I watched this guy having sex with your wife. I'm quite surprised the tyrant waited this long to kill him. Because Mazeres' card was marked from ages ago. So there's an interesting choice there going on with what the tyrant's doing. Lynn again.
Well, speaking of not very bright, and Armatrites is described as a tyrant. He's sort of driven by his baser impulses. So that the fact that Armatrites doesn't put that together right away, that doesn't bother me. And things are moving so quickly. It doesn't strain credibility for more that he didn't put that together. I'm more concerned that the audience puts that together when Zenarchus brings it up.
Okay. Any other thoughts before we complete this unit of action, as it were? I think it's very helpful that we have Sextorio and Lodovicus body removal services, because they're very useful people to have around. I think they probably have a van and white overalls, because they might be needed. So the scene continues. Your scripts have it marked as a separate scene, but it is the continuation of the scene. He dies. There is thunder and lightning. And the second time in a week, a blazing star appears. Enter Tyrant Armatrites.
Thunder? And thou, marrow-melting blast? Quick-winged lightning? And thou, blazing star? I like not thy prodigious bearded fire. Thy beams are fatal. Behold the influence of all their malice in my children's ruins. Their states malignant powers have envied, and for some hath struck with their envies died. 'Tis ominous. Within there.
Enter Sextorio and Lodovicus.
Here, my lord.
Convey those bodies a while from my sight.
Both dead, my lord?
Yes, and we safe. Our death we need less fear.
And Sextorio and Lodovicus carry off the bodies of Zenarchus and Amphridote.
Usurpers' issue oft proves dangerous. We depose others, and they poison us. I have found it on records. 'Tis better thus.
Enter the old king. Remember him? Lapyrus, Fidelio, Amorpho, all disguised like pilgrims, and they speak aside initially.
My lord, this castle is but lightly guarded.
Just as I hoped and wished. Now bless us heaven. Horrid and inhuman spectacle is yonder that presents itself to sight.
It seems 3/4 of a man hung up.
What tyranny hath been exercised of late? I dare not venture on.
Fear not, my lord. Our habits give us safety.
Behold, the tyrant maketh towards us.
Holy and reverend pilgrims, welcome.
Old strangers by the tempest beaten in.
Most welcome still. We are but stewards for such guests as you. What we possess is yours, to your wants due. We are only rich for your necessities.
A generous, free, and charitable mind keeps in thy bosom to poor pilgrims kind.
'Tis the time of day to dine, my friends. Sextorio.
Enter Sextorio.
My lord.
Our food.
'Tis ready for your highness.
There is loud music, a banquet brought in, and by a small table for the young queen exits Sextorio.
Sit, pray sit, religious men, right welcome to our cates. Grave sir, I have observed you waste the virtue of your serious eye too much on such a worthless object as that is. A traitor, when he lived, called that his flesh. Let hang. Here's to you, we are the oldest here.
And pledges, drinks, and passes on the cup.
Round let it go. Feed if you like your cheer.
Enter Sextorio.
My lord.
How now?
Ready, my lord.
Sit merry.
And
Where
exit with Sextorio.
Where'er I look, these limbs are in mine eyes.
Have you found it, Lapyrus? You can't hear? Okay. Some wretch on whom he brought his tyranny.
Hard was his fate to light into his mercy.
Peace, he comes.
Soft music. Enter the tyrant Armatrites with the young queen, her hair loose. She makes a curtsy to the table. Sextorio brings in the flesh with a skull, all bloody. Bloody? They all wonder. Exit Sextorio.
I perceive strangers more desire to see an object than the fair that said before them set. But since your eyes are serious suitors grown, I will discourse. What's seen shall now be known.
Your bounty every way conquers poor strangers.
Yon creature whom your eyes so often visit held mighty sway over our powers and thoughts. Indeed, we were all hers. Besides her graces, there were all perfections. Unless she speaks, no music, till her wishes brought forth a monster, a detested issue, poisoning the thoughts I held of her.
And the old king sends forth Fidelio.
She did from her own ardour undergo adulterous baseness with my professed foe. Her lust strangely betrayed, I ready to surprise them. Set on fire by the abuse, I found his life cunningly shifted by her own dear hand, and far enough conveyed from my revenge. Unnaturally, the first abused my heart, and then prevented my revenge by art. Yet there I left not. Though his trunk were cold, my wrath was flaming, and I exercised new vengeance on his carcass, and gave charge the body should be quartered and hung up. 'Twas done. This, as a penance, I enjoined her to taste no other sustenance, no, nor dares, till her love's body be consumed in hers.
The sin was great, so is the penance grievous.
Our vow is signed.
And was he Lydian born?
He was no less son to mine enemy, a banished king. Tymethes was his name.
Oh me, my son Tymethes.
Passion may spoil us. Sir, we oft have heard of that old king his father, and that justly his kingdom was by right due to his sway.
It was, I think it was, till we, called in by policy and force, deceived his confidence, showed him a trick of war, and turned him out.
Sin's boast is worse than sin.
And enter Fidelio again, speaking to the various people on his party.
All's sure. The guards are seized on.
Good.
The passage strongly guarded.
Holy sir, what's he?
Our brother, a poor pilgrim that gives notice of a religious father that attends to bear us company in our pilgrimage.
Oh ho, 'tis good, 'tis very good.
Alas, poor lady, makes me weak to see what food she eats. I know your mercy will remit this penance.
Never. Our vows irrevocable, never. The lecher must be swallowed rib by rib. His flesh is sweet, it melts, it goes down merrily.
The pilgrims discover themselves as who they really are.
Ha! What are these?
Speranza!
Ah!
Villain! This minute loses thee, thou tyrant!
Pilgrims wear arms, the old king and Lapyrus, betrayed, confounded, Oh, I must die forsworn. Break thou, bleed whore. There is my jealousy flown.
And he kills his queen.
Oh, happy man, 'tis more revenge to me than all your aims. I have killed my jealousy. I have nothing now to care for more than hell. 'Tad been if you had struck me ere she fell. I had left her to your lust. The thought is bitterness. But she first fallen.
Die, cruel, murderous tyrant!
And they all discharge their weapons at him. Bang, ba, ba, bang, bang, bang.
Bang, bang.
So laugh away this breath. My lust was ne'er more pleasing than my death.
And the tyrant dies.
As full possessed as ever, and as rich in subjects' hearts and voices, we present thee the complete sway of this usurped kingdom.
I'm so born between the violent streams of joy and passion, I forget my state. To all our thanks and favours, and what more, we are in debt to all your free consent. We will discharge in happy government.
Enter the old queen disguised, a boy with her.
The peacefulest reign that ever prince enjoyed.
Already a petition? Shooters begin betimes. We're scarce warm in our good fortune yet. What are you?
Unworthiest of all the joys this hour brings forth.
And she discovers herself.
Our dearest queen!
Your poor, distressed queen.
Oh, let me light upon that constant breast, and kiss thee till my soul melt on thy lips. Our joys were perfect, should Tymethes there. We are old. This kingdom wants a hopeful heir.
Your joys are perfect, though he stand not there, and your wish blessed. Behold, a hopeful heir. Stand not amazed, 'tis manna feed.
How just the gods are, who in their due time return what they took from us.
Happy hour. Heaven hath not taken all our happiness, for though your elder met ill fate, good heaven has thus preserved your younger for your heir.
Prepare those limbs for honourable burial, and, noble nephew, all your ill is lost in your late newborn goodness, which will reward. No storm of fate so fierce, but time destroys, and beats back misery with a peal of joys.
And they exit, and they all live happily ever after. Well, you were promised a bloody banquet, and so we have a scene where the young queen, the tyrant's wife, sits eating throughout the length of the scene, while the tyrant basically just reiterates everything everybody knows. So it doesn't matter whether anyone's listening to what he's saying, because you're just watching this thing happening, and maybe even drinking out of the skull as a drinking vessel, the blood, and then tyrant kills her and is taken out in a hail of bullets. I mean, wow. This play is doing things visually all the way through. In this second half, it's doing it in a very different way. It's not doing big dumb show stuff. It's doing light effects. It's doing sudden loud noises and visual things here with the banquet and the limbs. There's this thing that they keep talking. The limbs are surrounding them in this space. It is a space of bits of body, and this is I think very much Ron Seal territory. But it did what it said on the tin. But I don't think anyone was quite expecting this scene, though, were you? So, thoughts on the room? The old queen's back. There's an heir. I mean, their eldest son died because he was a bit of a heel, but but they've got a young son. There's a boy. They all live happily ever after, or they struggle to pay for the therapists. Frankly,
I don't know. There's something just sort of hilarious about this. Like, for instance, the king said, everything's good now except, our son is dead, so I don't have an heir. And there's Lapyrus going, I'm your nephew. I'm your nephew. I'm a good person now, But then the queen shows up and says, oh no, we have a kid that survived. And Lapyrus is like.
But again, it's in line with all of those the tragedies we've looked at, where there is this constant balancing on a comedic knife edge with bits. It's this constant thing. At what point does Grand Guignol turn into farce? And this is Grand Guignol, isn't it? It really is. It is luxuriating in the horror tropes that we are actually very familiar with in modern cinema. And this whole scene is about watching someone very slowly eat their lover, while people make speeches, while other people having their bodies dragged away. I mean, this is the thing. When tragedy goes to a certain point, it inherently becomes slightly absurd. Alexandra.
Okay, my mic is back on. I slightly disagree with the Grand Guignol kind of comparison, because I think because the rest of the play hasn't been horrible and bloody, including what we were talking about in the chat, that massive veer at the point of here is a banquet, midway through the play. Do you think this is the bloody banquet? Well, it's not. So I feel like it's done something which we customarily see nowadays in what we think of as good thrillers or good horror movies, where it keeps the horribleness till the very end, and then it's immensely impactful because we've been expecting it this entire time. And what we see is fairly compressed, but it's still much more horrible to our taste than if we spent the entire play watching people kill each other and do bloody things.
Yes, it is that narrowing in the focus. You think the first half of the play, where it's actually quite expansive, there's lots of scenes outdoors, whereas the second half of the play, everything is indoors. Everything is in a court. Everything is pretty much about sex and intrigue, and the threat of death increases. And then in Act 4, people start actually dropping like flies, and in Act 5, it's not actually so much about death. People do kill themselves, and people are, but it's actually about cruelty and this act that's going on in front of our eyes. Aliki.
Yeah, I had a thing to say. I know I did, because I had it. I was like, I will put a hand up. I was like, right, yes. So it's doing these very meta-theatrical and meta-tragedic things, playing with the idea of the form, going like, oh no, a dead baby at the beginning. Never mind that. You've got so much more tragedy coming. A person in disguise, another person in disguise, a person who is being described in terrible terms to themselves, only she doesn't know it's really him. All of that. Sorry, I was going somewhere with that, except I think, I think your mention of a good thriller is really, was it you or was it Alexandra who said it, is on point, because it's about an audience that knows this form really well and giving them something to enjoy, even though they think they know what's going to happen. That, I think, is what I really enjoyed about it. Yeah.
And as we go into our final thoughts, because I think we've now collected perhaps our general thoughts about the play overall, I will slightly let Stephen off the leash if he so desires to be so as well, just in terms of what people think is going on with the text itself. We don't have a precise dating for this play. It's quite a wide range from potentially, I think, 1605 through to 1613. We've got a good 10-year span or so of potential dating for it, and that sort of complicates because we can't be absolutely certain where the play originated. There are options for where it started, and also the question of where it then ends up. It then gets printed quite relatively late, and there are lots of important questions about where adaptation or changes may have occurred in the manuscript, because I don't think anyone is surprised to have noticed, hang on, what happened with all the old king stuff in the first half and these long dumb shows and stuff, and that there may have been some deliberate, after maybe after previews, they basically went, that plot line doesn't really work. Should we turn it into a dumb show and move on as quickly as possible? They're really loving all the Bloody Banquet stuff. Maybe something along those lines happen. But we can't be absolutely certain as to what's going on there. There are, I say, lots of thoughts and lots of, but there isn't necessarily an absolute answer to those questions. But it is an interesting question as to what do you do if you do contract a subplot or the wider the old king plot. What happens to the rest of the play? Does it hold up? Because you kind of can't get rid of them, but you don't necessarily want to linger on them. And of course, after that dumb show with the clowns are only technically in one scene with dialogue. They're in two scenes. They're in the dumb show and they're in one scene with dialogue. So it's we've had no comedy in this half of the play at all. That isn't to say there aren't funny lines. There are certainly several funny moments. Again, something about tragedy. They often have much funnier dialogue than comedy does. And it ages better as comedy because it's dark comedy. So we've got a play that's doing slightly odd things already, before we then ask what we might dramaturge and play around with today. And it has a modern performance history. It has been, I believe, successfully performed in full production, and interesting things have come out of it. So, there's lots of thoughts in my head about it, but we'll go to final thoughts around the room for the play overall. Helen, any final thoughts? Well, in production, we probably need to get a lot of limbs are required. I mean, obviously, only technically 4 limbs, but yeah, there's a certain investment.
Well, 4 quarters.
Yeah.
It's not. I'm not a horror movie goer. I don't like them. I don't like horrors. I would not necessarily choose to watch this play. I can see it has elements. I mean, I was very aware of everything that it's drawing from, because certainly it derives from an enormous number of other plays with jealousy and murder in them, and deposition. But on the other hand, it would need a lot of straightening out to work, because it's a bit of a pig's breakfast. But it's got some good characters in it. They've got some good lines, but I suppose it's partly because we're reading it like this. I found it more confusing than entertaining.
Yeah, I mean, again, with this question, we are here for all tastes and things, and if people are into their horror, then of course we can always serve them with this, and that is a viable vehicle for people. Stephen, you've only been here for this session, but in many ways the plot has been much more straightforward this session. There was a lot of clearing up of backstory last session, which sort of threw people for a bit of a loop, whereas actually this session has mostly been a relatively tight number of characters. Final thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, it surprised me a little bit. It has probably the most violent play I've ever read, I think, including any modern play I've ever read. And it's quite surprising just how graphic and visual it gets. I think it's sort of asking questions of the audience. And it would ask questions of an audience now if you were to put it on stage. What is the purpose of this? And I think it's something about the whole play that seems to me is quite voyeuristic. It's lots of people in spying on each other and going through secret tunnels and watching each other and things. So there's something quite sort of voyeuristic about it, and I think that would include the big sort of upsurge of violence at the end. The audience is participating in that in a way, just watching this woman eat her lover. But yeah, it's an interesting one. I think there was a point before about the form of it is interesting because I didn't anticipate Tymethes getting killed off like that at all. I think it's something that you'd expect in, you often see that in sort of more modern TV series where a lead character gets killed off suddenly and it's a shock. And I think Tymethes is like, I at least expected him to be the guy, the romantic lead of the piece. So having him just sort of killed very, very quickly and suddenly was quite good dramatically, I thought. I liked that sort of coup de théâtre. Yeah, I think it's an interesting one. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, it's that thing because I'm sitting here thinking, well, maybe we could just pull it back even further and just keep the the central court plot, and we don't worry too much about the old king, except as a sort of plot coup de théâtre at the end of just turning up and machine gunning everyone. Because there's almost this problem at the end of we are re-establishing a dynasty with these characters who are sort of noble, and you're sort of going, well, yeah, but is that real in any way?
It makes sense if you can sort of show the tyrant losing his supporters through the play, maybe, because he gets more paranoid and psychotic. If he becomes more isolated and there's no one to protect him when the old king comes back. Something like that.
Yeah, or what's Sexto and what are the body merchants doing throughout all this? Do they just turn and just go, oh, sod this? And I quite like the ending is actually just the professional crime scene cleanup operation, and they're just you just have 10 minutes and you realize there's not going to be a curtain call. They're just going to clean the stage and then everybody just leaves and the lights are switched on. That might be interesting. Alan, any final thoughts?
Yeah, the second half actually works far better as a play. The problem I was having yesterday is that I just could not get my head round the backstory side of it, and I'm sure that there were 2 or 3 missing bits of explication of who was who and what was happening and why. And I was just totally lost with that. This second half, which is much tighter in terms of locus and in terms of timing, you can actually follow it through almost as a domestic tragedy. The one thought I've got is that the violence is so OTT. I just wonder whether a modern audience would just treat it as comic.
That's always the thing.
As the only way of coping with it.
I think there's something to do with the way the play deliberately plays with darkness as it goes on. Literal darkness in terms of there is less light, and as a way of actually drawing people away. Broadly speaking, if you light everything with lots of light, the audience laughs. If you take all the light away, they are less inclined to laugh. That is not an absolute, but that is a general rule of thumb. So I wonder if that's deliberate, and even then they were worried about people laughing at the extremity of it all. And the opening is a really fascinating example of what happens when you explain the plot too many times. Because actually, I think that's the problem with the opening, is you have the induction, okay, you see the dumb show. And in our case, I said all these names at you, and they all came at you. And then we had the chorus, and they said all these names at you. None of those names matter a damn. And actually, that's through us, because actually they explicate what's going on perfectly well. But because actually we're reading aloud this Lydian and this Lycian and this person, we didn't need any of that. There's a tyrant and there's an old king and there's a betrayer. That's all you need to know at the beginning of the play. And then there's some other people who get added as we go along. But it's actually too much exposition rather than too little, and it actually bamboozles you. And it's a fascinating effect that I've seen quite a few times, actually. You've got to be careful how you explicate, because you can do it. You can actually do it too many times sometimes. The play itself doesn't technically do that, because of course they don't actually read out the dumb shows. Stephen, any final thoughts?
Well, you've just said a lot of things I was going to say, so I'll try and. So I was thinking about the way that the Wanamaker, which is sort of replica indoor theatre, how it works with the candles and the light. And even though you can't just sort of, fade them up and fade them down, you can, in the act time and possibly even between the scenes, you can radically alter the amount of light there is. And to add to your point, Rob, if you've got some fairly gruesome props and it gets darker and darker, then you really do have that kind of, what is it? I remember seeing, I think it was the Duchess of Malfi, and there was like a skull or something like that, and they'd taken it to just one person with a candle. They put all the lights out, and you're kind of going, is it? And that's a huge sort of atmospheric thing. So I think there's, spectacle's the wrong word, isn't it? Spectacular's the wrong word, but it's kind of interior visual effects that can depend on some quite sophisticated use of lighting levels. If we can let the candles down to the floor to put out most of the lights, then they could have done if they wanted to. And what was the other thing? No, I think that's enough. I think I'll stop there. That was the main thing. So there's a particular kind of interior theatricality going on here, I think. Oh, the other thing was, you're really close to this stuff. You are really, really on top of it. So it's not like some kind of drive-in and you're 50 yards away with your arm around somebody. You can almost reach out and touch this stuff. And so there's that sort of squick thing. You've got the proximity element working there as well, to the things as well as the people on the stage.
And there is also one disadvantage of darkness, which is, of course, if you darken a room, then people have a tendency to fall asleep. This play has a solution to that. It sets off firearms every so often. And it seems to... that's also my thinking, is that in Act 4, there's been a lot of darkness for quite a long time. And then what happens? Bang, bang. Yeah, everybody's suddenly jolted awake. So it has a nice structural purpose as well, which I quite like. Alexandra, any final thoughts?
I have sound problems, so I will try to be brief. I like this. I think it's got some really, really good structural points that we've already discussed. And I think it's got some structural issues for sure. But now that we've got to the end and we understand what we might be aiming for, I can already mentally picture, you take that bit out and then you remove those characters and you find a different way of saying that thing so you don't have to show it, and you're good. I've made a note saying pleasant and inoffensive, in that it pleases us as a modern audience with how things get resolved, and also a lot of the sort of character journeys or threads get resolved, and it's also surprising while it does that, and inoffensive, not in the sense that it doesn't offend our sensibilities, but aside from a few things that are easily removable, or that can be made into, like the sexism and the for instance the womanizing thing can be made into something that the player is addressing, is aware of, which I think is valuable, rather than casual random offending of entire groups of people, because who gives a crap about them? And so I love that there's internal conflict in the characters and that there are twists to the plot and to the narrative. And I think, as you've all mentioned, there's also stuff that is not spectacle, but to do with the craft of the presentation in this medium, that I think is fantastic stuff to play with. So I really like it as a thing that could be put on in modern productions.
Connor, any final thoughts?
I really like it. I mean, I'm a big fan of Revenge Tragedy, so I love Webster's The White Devil is my favourite play ever, and The Duchess of Malfi and Revenge Tragedy. I love it. I love the spectacle of it. And I disagree with Alexandra. I think we should just go all out, offend everyone. Russell Brand should play Tymethes. Done. Okay, if you're offended by that,
Okay,
he gets his comeuppance, if you believe that. But I think I envision this as a modern production in the similar style of John Wick, because we love ultra-violent movies, and we like this kind of the whole backstory and history of all these characters. I think this play could lend itself more to real world building about these different factions and real high value kind of productions of light and everything else. I think it plays with so much that could be so effective in a modern production. If you wanted to go that route, I like it. I think it could be really played with, and make it as violent and as gory as possible. Bring out the limbs dripping, and then bring them on cooked later on, so we can all smell it and go, "Oh my god, I feel sick," because that's what it deserves.
Okay, Lynn, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I am not a fan of horror either. I don't go see scary movies because I have nightmares for weeks. I don't sleep. And also I am typically the kind of dramaturg who likes things tidy. My instinct is very often with these texts to rationalize them, to sort of make them more predictable, more tidy, more true to genre. That's sort of my aesthetic. And interestingly, I think both of those tendencies are really not at play here in my engagement with this text. It doesn't horrify me because it's so ridiculous. And I kind of like the messiness, which is very unusual for me. I mean, I might clean it up a little bit, get rid of the second baby, and get rid of some of the clown stuff. There's just some nice country people that save the queen. But I am surprisingly unbothered by the fact that we have the deposed good king and he disappears for a huge amount of time. Doesn't bother me because he comes back. It's fine. And it would it might bother me that a character we're supposed to like, the son of the deposed king, turns out to be a shit. Cool. I kind of like it. So I think this play sort of charmed me by violating those expectations, but I feel like it does it in kind of a fun way. I mean, I have seen a modern dress production of The Revenger's Tragedy where the first two rows of the audience had a big sheet of Visqueen on their laps because they were in the splatter zone. And I thought it was great because your engagement with it isn't the same as a horror movie. The stakes are really not there. And I think that's the secret to putting on. It's just bonkers from beginning to end. And I feel like, I think it was Connor just now saying this is a modern play. I really visualize this as a modern production where we use the technology that we have. It's a lighting designer's play. It's a prop designer's play. Maybe it wasn't before. I think I know the production that Stephen was talking about of Duchess of Malfi, where they raised and lowered the candles. That got annoying after a while. The candle shtick in that production of Malfi. But that it's you do that with a push of a button in a modern theater, and we've got that technology. Let's bring that to play. Let's use that. Very much a lighting designer, a sound designer, a prop designer's play. Could be a costume designer's play. We could signal a lot with the costumes. And I am inclined to leave a lot of the messiness in place because that it's sort of crazy. I'm not really sure what's going on. I think that's part of the effect that I would want.
Okay, we're running a little late, but Sarah, any final thoughts?
I said yesterday that I felt this played more like a comedy than a tragedy, and I said it again in the chat earlier. And you said, oh well, that's quite often the case with these revenge tragedies, but to me, it doesn't feel like a comedy because it's so over the top. It feels like a comedy because of the way it's structured. The good end happily and the bad unhappily. It's got this kind of resolution. It's got this really tidy resolution to it that I don't necessarily expect, with a tragedy. And the stakes really aren't that high, in spite of the fact that people are eating their murdered lovers' bodies. It's like, I don't care, it's just.
I do wonder if that's more just us reading it here. I think you can make people care. I think there are clear stakes here. He's a dangerous tyrant.
So this is what I was coming to, because I think there is a lot about this play to like. I think the women are fascinating, and the way the women are treated, and the way behave. Alexandra touched on this. I think there's some very good there is some very interesting sexual dynamics going on in this play that you could do a lot with. And I think you have two choices with this play, which is something in its favor. For putting it on as a contemporary production, you can go down the whole atmospheric, dim the lights, and absolutely as you dim the lights, I was thinking exactly what Connor said, raise the scents. Don't just dim the lights, actually get the smells coming on as well. I mean, in my case, it wouldn't be cooking meat, it would be rotting flesh, and just like have that creeping in slowly, just to really, really, bring up the ick factor and, go for it, which, is kind of what you do with a revenge tragedy. But you could also just play the whole thing entirely for laughs, because it does actually work as quite a tidy comedy. And I'd be tempted to make Lodovicus and the other guy I was playing, Sextorius or whatever he's called, I'd be tempted to make them and the clowns the same characters. So early on, they're setting a wolf trap, and they end up catching this dude, and then later on they're like, oh, are we shifting another body? Like, oh, right, okay, we've got a pit already, it's fine, we dug the pit earlier.
So not just the same actors, the same characters.
Yeah, actually make them the same characters, because I mean those clowns, yeah, they're literally there for one scene. Make them the same characters, and actually just lean into the fun of it. Yeah, so you could go either way. You could make it really dark and atmospheric and icky, or you could just play it entirely for laughs and turn it into something quite light-hearted. And I think it would work either way, actually. And the dark version, you've got the young queen like just so reluctant to eat her dead lover's body, and in the other version she's like, oh yeah, pass the ketchup. I think you could go either way with it, and you could create a successful production either way. It would just entirely depend on what you wanted to do with it. And you would get an audience. I mean, I would not go and see the dark icky version, because like Helen and Lynn, that's not my cup of tea. I'd totally go and see the other version and probably have quite a good night out. So it just depends on what you want to do. And it's good to have a play where you've got those kinds of options, and where you can play with the audience's expectations of what they're going to see.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because the reason I keep pushing back against this is in comparison with some of the other tragedies where there is overt comedy all the way through. This is actually very straight-laced all the way through, apart from the clowns. It's not like, say, we mentioned Hoffman, but also Antonia's Revenge and so, she haven't done for a very long time. Those plays where there is overt comedy explicitly in the scenes, and the scenes, even though they're incredibly dark scenes, they're also incredibly funny scenes. I'm not seeing there's any structural comedy apart from occasional moments where you're going, okay, well, you might get a laugh there, or that could overflow there. And I don't see it in the structure either. I mean, the ending is the most horrific ending we've ever had. We've had over the top endings. We've had grotesque and silly endings. I mean, this is appalling in the best possible way. And yeah, I'm not quite sure. I mean, there is this problem that yes, you do have this sort of slightly cardboard cutout. The old king turns up, and they're the coup de théâtre at the end. But that's partly down to just the way the play's sort of been cut. Aliki, any final thoughts?
I'm inclined to agree with Sarah again. I think a tragedy requires you to care if terrible things happen. And you don't care here. That's why I'm talking about kind of genre games and playing with audience expectations. And that's something that modern audiences who are saturated with incredibly clever storytelling respond to. That's the way I would go with it. But yeah, I don't really have anything much else to add. I've been saying the same thing pretty much all the way.
Okay, we have multiple thoughts. You can, of course, do whatever you want with your production. We commend it to the house. It looks very contractable in many ways, apart from those dumb shows. It's actually there's a real core story here that actually involves a very small number of characters. We actually, in many ways, could have read this with a much smaller room. But till next time, when we read a different play, of course, you can come and read. There are sign-up forms on our website, beyondshakespeare.org, that anyone can join in. We do this on Zoom at the moment, and anyone can sign up and join us and read. So you too can read and be brutally murdered. So all that remains is to thank all the wonderful readers for all their wonderful reading. Thank you very much, everyone, and goodbye. Die, cruel, murderous tyrant!